You want to know what it's like to see a man get kicked down in front of a whole room just because of the color of his skin and the fact he kept quiet? Let me tell you, it doesn't start with the kick, it starts with the air in the room, shifting just a hair, just enough for you to wonder if anyone else felt it. Maybe it's just me, but I always know when someone like Officer Brent Rollins is in charge of a man who thinks his badge gives him the right to crush anybody who doesn't fit the script in his head. That day, in that packed courtroom, Rollins strutted around in his uniform like he was untouchable. Nobody paid much attention to the guy in the blue t-shirt and worn-out jeans in the back row. Why would they? He wasn't loud. He wasn't looking for trouble. He didn't even belong there, at least, not in their eyes. Just another face in the crowd, right? But you know what they say, some folks hide whole storms inside them, and you never see it coming until the sky breaks open. Rollins, he didn't see anything special either. Gave the guy a side eye, maybe a muttered comment into his radio about another troublemaker. That's how it always starts, with indifference, with the kind of silence that's not peaceful, but watchful, dangerous. The man in blue just sat, not fidgeting, not talking, eyes fixed on Rollins with this patient, quiet focus. It wasn't defiance. It wasn't fear. It was like he was waiting for something he already knew was coming. Rollins did what men like him do, try to own the space, to remind everyone who's boss, barking orders like sit down, wait to be called. But that man, he stood up, slow, deliberate, like he was owed the floor, not asking for it. You ever see a person move and know, deep down, they're just inevitable? Like gravity. That's what it felt like. So Rollins got angry, faster than he probably meant to, and shoved him. Hard. Then, with all those people watching, he kicked him in the side, right there in front of the judge, the lawyers, the jury, and me. Now, you'd think something would snap, a voice, a protest, a shout for justice. But all you heard was the thud, and that silence afterward, sharp enough to cut. That man dropped to one knee, not like he'd been beaten, more like a force just redirected, his head still up, eyes on Rollins, calm, even cold. Rollins leaned over and spat venom, threatened him right there. One more step, and I'll kick your lungs out through your spine. But the man didn't give him the satisfaction of a flinch. He rose, slow, steady, not with anger, not with pride, but with this iron certainty that, makes bullies nervous. You could feel the air change, then folks started to realize something was off. Rollins stepped back, looked around for cameras. The courtroom, it was dead silent. That's what happened. The man moved quick, smooth, not flashy. Next thing, Rollins was flat on the floor, his own gun skittering across the tile. The man didn't follow up, didn't attack, just held Rollins in place, not choking, just containing. Everybody in that room could see it then. The tables had turned, and all the power in Rollins's badge was just an empty shell. But here's the twist, and this is Rollins struggled to recover, trying to puff himself up, to yell about the law. The man's sleeve slipped, and you could see a tattoo. SEAL Team 5, Somalia. It hit the room like a hammer. Some marks don't need explanation. That wasn't just a tattoo. It was history, the kind of thing even the bravest in law enforcement learned to respect or fear. Rollins tried to bark back, saying, "I'm the law here." But his voice was shaky. His eyes weren't so sure anymore. And that's when the man spoke for the first time, voice low, steady. "I once carried a soldier with a shattered femur across the Afghan border under fire, just to keep that law alive." The weight of it made everyone look away, everyone except Rollins, who just kept shrinking inside that uniform. The story didn't end there. After the dust settled, they tried to dig into who this man was. But his records locked up tighter than the Pentagon secrets. That's the kind of silence that's louder than any file. Then he walked right into an internal review, laid a photo down on the table. Rollins, years ago, knee on the neck of a soldier, looking right into the lens with that same smug grin. Didn't need a trial to see the truth anymore. You know what happened next? Rollins tried to save face, went public, called a press conference to blame trauma, called the man a danger to society. But right there in front of all those cameras, that man stepped forward, placed a silver star with DNA verification right on the podium, and walked out. Didn't say a word. The room was so quiet you could hear people's beliefs breaking. They reopened an old investigation, Hyden Williams, a soldier who died under suspicious circumstances. Forensics found a piece of Rollins's uniform under the man's fingernails, blood-soaked, with Rollins's DNA. You can't argue with that. In court, Rollins was forced to read the names of every person he'd hurt. Each one stripped him bare until he was weeping, shoulders shaking. No pride left, no armor but his own guilt. He kept glancing back at the man he'd kicked, now standing silent in the back, a living reminder that real power comes from presence, not from shouting. In the aftermath, Rollins lost everything: the badge, the medals, even the hollow respect of his peers. One by one, folks who'd stood by him stepped away. One old cop, Franklin Hughes, took off his badge in front of the cameras and placed it down, saying, "I will not let this badge die alongside my self-respect." That hit harder than any ruling. But the most important conversation happened far from the cameras. Outside a veteran's shelter, Rollins, now just a man, approached Dante Graves. He asked, "Why didn't you hit back when you could? Why didn't you humiliate me?" Dante just handed him a cloth bundle, ashes from Kandahar, carried for a fallen comrade's widow. "I brought it back for his wife. She couldn't hold him. So I kept it until the war ended, until someone asked why I still carried it. Now I'm giving it to the only person who made me wish it weighed more." Sometimes, the hardest justice is mercy, letting a man face what he's become, not what you could do to him. Rollins was left holding that bundle, heavier than any badge, staring at a handful of sand and memory. He finally realized he'd never carried the weight of his uniform, only worn it. That's a truth you can't unsee, you can't shake off. People talk about justice like it's always loud, but sometimes it's the silence that convicts you, the names spoken, the ones never forgotten, the presence of a man who never had to raise his voice to bring a whole system to its knees. Now I ask you, who really stand for justice? The man who wields his power, or the one who shoulders its burden? Let's talk about that. What does it take, in your mind, to finally break the cycle and rebuild something better? I want to hear from you. Where do you stand on justice, accountability, and the price of silence? Drop your thoughts below.